Okay, I'm on this 2002 Mistubishi Galant. Little backstory on this. She got somehow my wife got connected with this lady. She had taken it to one of the big chains here, and because it didn't have heat, and they went ahead and tried to flush the heater core, and it didn't work. And they told her she needed a new heater core. And of course, at the big chain stores here in St. Louis, if you get a heater core, you're talking. I don't know what the exact bill was. We didn't ask, but my guess is anywhere between $800 and $1,500 for a job like that. These stores, those kind of stores, will really rake you over the coals on that. Which I mean, it is a big job. I looked it up. It's about a 7-hour job or 6-hour job, so it is a big job. But regardless, I think on to something else here. Anytime I get a car like this, especially if I know ahead of time it's coming in, I knew ahead of time this was coming in. I try to do a little research on it before I just tear into it. And I would have done this either way, just because a lot of time I don't know. A lot of times when you don't have heat in your car, it's the controls. Back in the day they had vacuum lines. Now everything's pretty much electronically controlled. But there's doors and things you have to switch over to get heat. And on the Mistubishi, it looks like, from what I read, I'm not sure how far it goes back, but I know '02 and '03 are pretty similar with this. If you look here, I got the heater core pulled up. Oh, Riley's here. This here is a valve. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's a little rod that comes up out of here. And this is a shutoff valve. So if this is in the cold position, what happens is when you turn your heat from cold to hot, if you turn it to cold, it actually shuts this valve off and doesn't allow water and coolant to flow through this heater core and back out. So if you have it in the cold position, or if it's stuck in the cold position, or the motor that hooks to this is not working, and you would try to flush this heater core out, it would never flush out, because this is an actual valve that closes. On most cars, that's under the hood on one of your heater hoses. It's called a heater control valve. Back in the day, they were vacuum activated. Now they're electronic. Everyone's different now, but most of them are under the hood, connected to your heater hoses. So anyway, this one is actually under the dashboard, inside the dashboard on your heater core. And since I had done some research, I knew about this car a week ago, so I did some research on it. And I was at the junkyard Saturday. I said, well, if there's a Galant in there, we'll strip that motor out just to get it. So here, anyway, I found one at the junkyard, and here's the actual motor that goes under the dashboard. And you can see here on this is the slot where that rod hooks to. So this thing goes back and forth, and opens and closes the port for the antifreeze or the coolant. So if they went and tried to, and from what I understand, when these things break, they always break in the cold position. They never break in the hot position. So if this motor's not working under the dash there, and they tried to flush it, it would do no good, because that valve will be closed. So, and the reason why I'm leaning towards this instead of the actual heater core is because there's no coolant loss. It's not running warm. There's no water on the floorboard. There's no, I know a lot of cars, they have the outside, where to leak outside. But anyway, this car's not leaking antifreeze from what I understand, and it's not fogging up the window. There's no vapors or anything coming out of the vents to indicate that it's got at least a leaking heater core. Now, it could still be clogged. It's not. I know a lot of the Chryslers nowadays, they have a problem with the heater core clogging, but that's not normally, throughout time. It's usually when the heater core is bad, it leaks, or that's normal. They don't normally clog up. I know they can, and some of the newer one. I know some of the Avengers and Chrysler. Some of the newer Chrysler products are having a lot of problem with heater cores clogging, but in general, normally they just leak. So this car, I don't think is leaking at all. And like I said, I drove it last night. It wasn't steaming the windows up or anything. So where I'm at on it is, I think it's this actuator or motor, but I haven't pulled the I haven't pulled the dash apart yet to check it. So we're going to find out together what it is. And I pulled up a wiring diagram, which I'm a little confused on. This is the, this right here. It's the motor, water shut motor, which should be this motor here. But it's only got two, according to this wiring diagram, it only has 2 wires going to it, which is a little confusing because this has 5 going to it. So I don't know. I'm not sure. And if I got the wrong one or this wiring diagram is wrong. You run into this a lot with wiring diagrams. They're just wrong. So I printed it out. We got the water shut valve controller here. That has 6 wires going to it. And I think this is the switches on, it doesn't say that, but I think this might be the switches on the dash, the dial, because those have, I picked this up at the junkyard too, because I heard, anyway, these are the 2 relays that go to the dial on the dash. And I think maybe, let me see here. Yeah, I'm not sure. So anyway, I'm not real sure about the integrity of this wiring diagram. Maybe it's the wrong year. I don't know. So you run into this a lot, especially with the older cars. Well, any cars now. Wiring diagrams are sometimes hard to get a hold of, especially if, they just vary so much between whoever puts them out. I get them from 2 different places, and they're usually pretty reliable. So, and maybe it is. Maybe I got them wrong. Maybe this is off a different year car or something. I'm not sure. So anyway, what we're going to do is just go in and take the dash apart, and we'll find out together who's right on this. If my hunch is right, then this is what we'll be replacing. And if my hunch is wrong, and that's working perfectly fine, and it's operating, then I guess it would be the heater core, because it definitely does not have heat. The other thing too, last night when I drove it, I didn't hear anything mechanical going on under the dash. I had all the radios off, windows up, and was trying to listen for this motor. Usually you can hear things move around under your dash when you switch the controls. I heard nothing at all, which leads me to believe, again, that it's this. So I'll take the dash apart, and then of course we'll test the powers and grounds on it, make sure that it's even getting power to it. And if it is, and it's not working, then I think it's safe to say it's this. If it's not, then we'll go from there. It's not the easiest thing to get to, but it's not the hard. You have to pull the lower dash apart, take the glove box out. You have to pull the radio out and stuff, because there's a vent that comes up behind the center console with a screw that you have to get out of the way. You have to get that. That's completely covering it. You have to get that out of the way. So that's the main reason why you got to pull the center console stuff. But it's not a too terrible big job. I'm hoping that I don't have to pull the dash on this car, mainly because the dashboard's cracked pretty bad on the top in several spots, and it's almost like a Dodge Ram dash, almost the way it's cracked. And I don't, if I pull that out, who knows? I'm really hoping that it's just this, because I don't want that whole dashboard to fall apart when I pull it out. It's got some pretty big cracks and gaps in it, and that's always, you work on an older car. Even though this isn't that old, it's 2002, it's still older, and some of those older dashes can be a real pain as far as like falling apart. So anyway, talked enough. This is my theory. I'll start taking it apart, and we'll see if I'm right. And we'll test that and go from there and see, maybe we can save this lady a whole bunch of money. She wants motor mounts too, but that'll be a different video. So, yeah, we'll get started on it, and we'll see what the situation is. My guess is that the big chain did not check this, because you have to tear apart quite a bit of the dash to get to this. This is not out in the open. This is, I wouldn't say it's deep into the dash, but you have to take, like I said, you have to pull quite a bit of stuff off to get to this. And I'm guessing that they didn't do that. I'm guessing that they assumed that the heater core was clogged, charged her for a flush. Who knows how much I charged her for that she didn't need, and then decided that, well, you need a heater core. So we'll see. It would be an easy mistake to make because there's no I don't know. I mean, whenever I hear that there's no heat but there's no leaks, my main thought right away would be something under the dash like this. These motors and stuff, it's real common. Evidently they didn't. I doubt they checked that. She didn't say anything about it, and I mentioned something. My wife mentioned something about the motor to her, and she said, "Oh no, it's definitely the heater core. They said it was." So she's just going off whatever they tell her. So I'll start taking the car apart and we'll get into it and see what's up with it. All right, so on this side, I went ahead and took all this loose. I'm not going to pull this side out because it looks like this separates here on this side. So what I'm trying to do is get this bottom panel off, and all this has to come off. So I already pulled there's a panel here that goes with the radio. There's no screws to hold that, it just pulls straight out. And then there's screws obviously here and here, and then there's some on the other side, and there's some behind here. And then this whole bottom part will pull out. We'll pull the glove box out. So that's where I'm at right now. Had an aftermarket radio in it, so there's a lot of wiring and stuff back here that you probably would have to deal with the factory. But anyway, she's also got some lights down here, LED lights. I'm going to try to not disturb those as much as possible, but they are probably, I don't know, I'll try to see if I can disconnect them without peeling it off. That's just sometimes the things you deal with aftermarket stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going to go ahead and pull the screws out for the rest of this bottom, and we'll roll after that. All right, so I went ahead and removed the lower dash here. You can see there's screws right there. There's one right there, and right there. And then there's one on the bottom there, a couple on the bottom. You have to remove the radio first now, like I said before. This will pull out. You can pull it out real carefully. So now we're down to, here's your control. And I got to find it. We have to remove the motor. You can actually see it from here. We have to remove this vent right here. And there's a screw down in here. It's somewhere in here. I'll have to find it. But you unscrew that, and then this will pull out. And then we'll get access to that motor that we're after up there. And then we'll, like I said, we'll try to control it from the controller here and see if it even moves. All right, so that's out. That's it actually tries to fight you a little bit coming out, but there's a screw in here, like I said before. Now you can see the heater core here. What's sad is heater core is right there, and you can actually remove this box and get plenty of room to slide it out, but you wouldn't be able to slide it back to get it out. So it's kind of a shame that it's right there, but you have to pull the whole dash to get to it. Anyway, we can see there's no place to put this light. Oh, plastic under here. Anyway, we can see this motor arm now, and this is the valve that I showed you on O'Reilly's website. The motor's up in here, so we'll see if this even moves when we select it. All right, so I got it running. I had the heater controls on. And what you're going to look for, you're going to watch this and see if this rod moves back and forth. So it's on cold right now. And I just switched it to hot. And as you can see, it didn't move at all. So all I'm doing here is, right now I'm moving it to cold. And there's no movement. So we'll switch it to hot. And there's no movement. So you know, it's either electrical or it's that motor. It had nothing to do with the heater core. Right now, this heater core is completely closed off from the system. This valve is closed. So even if you would try to flush it, you're not going to get any coolant coming through here. So anyway, I wasn't really snooping, but I took the glove box out and found the estimate from the other shop, and I'll kind of go over that later. It's pretty interesting to see this. The money they were going to charge for this. So anyway, this is kind of a tight spot up here. You have to pull this other motor out first. It's held on by 2 Phillips. There's really no easy way. It's a pain in the butt, I'm not going to lie. So there's no way I could show you that and take it off. It's you know, it's up in this hole basically. So it's not impossible to do, but it's a pain in the butt. So I won't be able to film that. So I'm just gonna, you know, this module is up over it. So you gotta take this module off first to get to the motor. And then there's three screws in that motor that goes to the side of this evap housing. So I'll go ahead and do that. Take this off first, and then we'll try to pull that motor down. Hopefully I got enough wires where I can access the wires and test them. Because you definitely want to make sure you have power going to that motor. You know, you don't want to just replace this and then hope for the best. So we'll pull this down. Hopefully it's got enough room where we can get, you know, some kind of either voltmeter or test light or something up there and test the wires. And if, you know, if we got good powers and grounds, then we know this motor is bad. So I'll start on that and get it pulled down here, hopefully. All right, so I was wrong about that wiring diagram. It has all these pins in here. There's like 5 or 6 pins in here, but the wiring harness only uses 2 of those pins. So that wiring harness is, or the wiring diagram is right. It's just a 2-wire. This is a 2-wire motor. They just have extra pins in here, I guess, for whatever. So anyway, I got the Vantage hooked up. I'm going to try to probe this. It's kind of, you know, it's way up here. Hold on a second. Let me get this probe and I'll come back. All right, so you can see there we have voltage going to that engine. There is power going to it, or not the engine, the actuator. Yeah, we do have power going to it. I'll check the other wire real quick. All right, so I went ahead and plugged the junkyard motor in to it, and you can see here, watch. What you want to do is watch this. You know, on the other one, remember, it didn't move at all. When we quit switching it, no movement at all. Now watch this one. That's the hot. All right, so I'm on the other wire, and you can see it's got 1440, so it's battery. I got it running right now, so it's actually battery voltage. And I got it. Or I did have. I switched it to heat, and it's got good heat coming out of the vents up here. So, you know, all I did was just move this. If you move this up, then it will close it back off. Right now I got it open just to make sure the heater core is not clogged. And let me turn this off. So anyway, I actually opened this manually in the open position right now. And it's got really good heat coming out of all the vents. So this heater core is not clogged. And I actually tried plugging the junkyard motor in that I got from the junkyard, and it went straight to cold, or it went to hot and then just stopped. I guess this is really common on these cars. So this one, evidently, from what I understand, they park themselves in the cold position when they're bad. It was making a horrible noise when it did it. So anyway, we're gonna call Mistubishi and find out if they have it in stock, or we have to order what the deal is. But that is 100% the problem. It has voltage going to it. The heater core is not clogged. The heat works fine when you open it manually. and we have, like I said, we have power going to this, so should be no reason why that motor shouldn't go back and forth if it's not bad, and it is bad. So we will get that. And I want to mention something else too. I picked this up the other day at Harbor Freight. I know I talk about Harbor Freight a lot. I kind of did a little ratcheting screwdriver, and this thing is great for stuff like this under the dash where it's hard to get screwdrivers, and you can change the direction, and you can either use it as a ratchet or turn it, and it works really good. They're like $3, and they come with the bits for $3, and I was able to get this motor out super fast with this little thing. Because it's pretty challenging to get even a stubby screwdriver up in here with all this stuff. So it's another shout out to Harbor Freight, man. I don't know, like I find myself going there more and more for this little stuff, and it's really works well. The only thing I got a new heat gun from them. Well, anyway, I'll make another video about that. There's something they're doing I don't like a lot, but we'll talk about that in a different video. So anyway, I'm going to give Mistubishi a call, find out if I can get a new motor for this thing and how long it'll take. Hopefully it's in stock or they can get it quick. And then we'll go to the motor mount video, but I'll show you kind of, and this thing has 3 screws holding it in. The two, the facing you are pretty easy to get to. And then the one that's kind of hidden is back here. And that one's a little more challenging. But, this is a lot cheaper than pulling this whole dashboard out. Like I said, it's a 6-7 hour job. And this is what the problem is. So this is a lot easier than changing the heater core. Which, like I said, I don't mind doing it. It's more money for me. But I don't know if you can see. I don't know if I got a good shot of that. There's all kinds of cracks in the dash over by the driver's side. And I really would not want to remove this dash if I didn't have to. Just because I think it'll fall apart. So anyway, yeah, that's all there, and anytime you change something like this, make sure you're getting power to it. It's a quick test. Get your voltmeter out, test light, whatever. And make sure it's got voltage going to it. All right, we'll pick it back up when I get one. Okay. I want to clarify something on this wiring diagram. This is your step motor here, the motor that we're replacing. And you have 2 relays in your switch. One, I guess, would be for cold, and one is for hot. So what we're going to do, you should have battery voltage on these 2 wires, depending on what position your switch is on the dash. So I'll show you real quick. You'll pull the pigtail off of the motor, and then we'll probe each side. Now one side will have battery voltage and one side won't, and then we'll turn the switch, and then the opposite wire should have battery voltage and this side won't. So I'll show you that. And that's all come to your relay. You have 2 little relays in your blower switch on the dash. So that's, one controls hot, one controls cold. So I'll show you how to do that real quick, or we'll check the voltages real quick on it, just so you can double check and make sure that you're getting the proper voltage down here. And it's not a relay, because it could be one of these relays are bad instead of the actual motor. So this is just a double check of the relays that are integrated into the switch for that. So I'll show you that real quick on the Vantage. Got the Vantage on, and I got the switch on the car on hot. So probing one of the wires, you got 11.8, which is battery voltage right now. Now if I turn the switch to cold, this should go dead to 0. So it's on cold now, went to 0. So now I'm going to probe the other wire and make sure that relay is working. And I'm in there now, and we got battery voltage. So that's how you know definitively that you have the proper power going to, I just unhooked it. So that's how you know definitively you have proper power going to that motor. So there's no issues with the wiring or with the relays. It is definitely 100% that motor. So I just wanted to kind of, I know I kind of glossed over that earlier. I just wanted to kind of like show that a little more in detail and explain myself a little bit better on this Mistubishi Galant. All All right, well, I went to Mistubishi and ordered the part, and it's going to be several days before I get it. And I don't want to keep this video on my camera that whole time. So I pretty much showed you what you have to do. You're going to have to remove that lower dash, take the vents out, the radio and all that, to get down to this. There's, like I said, there's 3 bolts to hold this on. If you take the lower dash out, you can actually see this without taking the vent and all that stuff out. So if you have a similar problem with your Mistubishi, before you condemn the heater core, just make sure you check this, make sure this motor is moving back and forth. Because like I said, I moved it manually while it was running, the heat was working fine. So there's no problem with the heater core at all. The only thing I would say, now like I said before in the video, she took this to one of the big chains here in St. Louis, and this is the estimate she actually got. I found this estimate in the glove box, and I don't know if you can see there, the heater core job is about $1,100, and then they want to change 3 motor mounts. I don't know if that focused. Anyway, just to change the heater core was $1,100, and then they had 3 motor mounts. So the bill would have been like $1,700. You can decide for yourself if that's inflated or not. I'm not going to make a call on that. I know the heater core, the part is double what it is. They basically are charging double for the part. And, and they got something, Valvoline cooling system transfusion, $120. But, anyway, the heater core, they got a pretty high list price on it. And they got 6 hours at $125 an hour labor. So that, the 6 hours is right for this job. So the question would be on something like this, since they had already flushed it and diagnosed it, what would they have done? I guess, I don't want to condemn, I don't know. But my question would be, what would they have done? They obviously told her it needed it and they were going to do the job. So they didn't check this at all. My question would be, what would they have done if they would have changed the heater core and the heat still didn't work? Then they would have had to actually diagnose it and find this problem. What would they have done? They're already changing the heater core. It does not need to be changed. So you're going to be out $1,100 for that. And then, because I doubt that they're going to take it apart, tell her she needs a heater core, and then take it apart and decide, oh, well, no, this isn't working. My guess is they would have just tore it all apart, changed the heater core, put it back together, it wouldn't have worked. So when it doesn't work, what do they do then? That's the question I would have for them. And we'll never get the answer to that. I personally think they would have put it back together, found that this was the problem, eventually replaced it, and she would have been out like another $500 because this part at Mistubishi is $150, and they doubled the heater core price, so I'm guessing they would double this price. So this would have been, they would have probably charged her $300 for this, and then, I guess probably another $150 in labor. It's probably book time about an hour or so. So she's going to be on another $500 on top of the $1,100 for the heater core. So that's the problem I have with and these particular shops are notorious for this. I hear it all the time, every day. So I don't know. I mean, that's the question I would have on this. But anyway, I ordered the part. It's coming in. I'm not going to show how to put it back in because it's just pretty self-explanatory. You put the rod through here and then the 3 screws, and then just put your dashboard back together. I would have liked to have done that, but like I said, I already ordered the part. Mistubishi said it's going to be at least 4 or 5 days before it comes in. So I'm just going to end the video with that. They got motor mounts here that they said need replaced, all 3 of them. So we'll see I guess that was $600 or $700. Replace all those. So we'll see what it actually needs and go from there on that. So there'll be another video on motor mounts on this. But as far as the heater core or this shut motor, I don't know what else to say about it except if you run into this situation, especially if you have a Mistubishi Galant, but really anytime your car doesn't have heat, you're going to want to check to make sure. Don't automatically assume that your heater core is bad, because that's usually the last thing. There's many things before that you would want to test before you condemn a heater core. And, you know. So I think, and I'm not 100% sure, I think 02 and 03 use these motors on the Mistubishis. So if you have an 02, 03, definitely check this before you change anything. So anyway, I guess I'll end this video and we'll do the motor mounts next. But yeah, if you do this job yourself, it's just basically reverse of how I took it out. Put the dash. It's not too terribly hard to get the dash out. Your biggest issue is going to be getting to this. It's pretty tight in there. Like I said, I use that Harbor Freight little ratchet, screwdriver ratchet. $3. I actually had things similar to that that I misplaced, so I actually picked that up because I knew I was doing this job. So anyway, that's a pretty neat little tool they have there. And I guess we'll just close this out. You know, it's going to be a couple days before I get it back together. So we'll do the motor mounts next and get this Hoopty back on the road.